You are listening to Leading the Factory Forward with your host, Lynn Friest. We share interviews with manufacturing experts and strategies for embracing the digital future, recruiting a new workforce, finding new business. Lynn is an advanced manufacturing strategist and leadership consultant who is on a mission to show manufacturing leaders how to improve their current operations while preparing for a digital future. And here's your host, Lynn Friest.
Hello and welcome back to Leading the Factory Forward podcast. In today's episode and the next several episodes, we'll be talking about emotional intelligence, what you need to know about leading with emotional intelligence. In this post, I'm going to introduce the concepts and some of my thinking around it. Emotional intelligence sounds like a very daunting word, but in the end, as we look through these skills, it's really common sense. It simply hasn't been a common practice in either our work or in the world. We tend to get consumed by an unending stream of activity in businesses and don't pay attention to either how we're feeling or how other people are feeling. A definition of emotional intelligence by Daniel Goleman is this: emotional intelligence is a different way of being smart. It's a key to high performance at all levels, particularly for outstanding leadership. It's not your IQ, it's how you manage yourself and your relationships. Another quote to just help set the stage is, "We are all human beings, not just human doings," by Bradshaw. So I'll be exploring and sharing how these concepts can help you lead your factory forward. So to begin with a little background, I'm currently in a development program to become a certified coach using emotional intelligence. This course is based on the work of Daniel Goleman, who wrote the book, Emotional Intelligence. His concept is that technical skills are important, but only take you part of the way to success. It's the people skills or the emotional intelligence that's going to take you even farther. Based on Goleman's research for the book, he tried to answer the question, what are the skills that set the top 10% of performers apart? During his research, he was able to assess almost 100 companies and review their competency models. What he found was, as you go higher and higher in levels of leadership, you need more people skills than you do technical or analytical skills. Certainly in the manufacturing, technical skills are always going to be important. But at a certain point, it's actually how well you work with people and others that really makes the difference. Goleman says there are 4 basic domains for emotional intelligence. The first is self-awareness, understanding your own emotions and how they affect you. The second is self-management, the ability to moderate or manage your emotions in working with others. Then is social awareness. Are you able to sense others' emotions and what's affecting them? And finally, relationship management. How do we work with others to create positive outcomes for our organizations and for everyone? In this podcast, we'll explore the 12 key competencies he identified, and we'll look at 4 of those competencies in each of our episodes. The 12 key competencies are emotional self-awareness, emotional self-control or balance, adaptability, an achievement orientation, a positive outlook, empathy, organizational awareness, influence, coaching and mentoring, conflict management, teamwork, and finally, inspirational leadership. So why is this important to us? As leaders, we get work done through others. It's not just about our own efforts, but really the efforts of everyone around us. Emotions have power. How we manage our own and are attentive to others' emotions is a key element in the success of our organizations and our teams. If we don't pay attention, we and our teams may not have alignment or connection or performance. In a rapidly changing world, we have to keep developing ourselves and our teams with new skills for the future. Finally, our organizations are becoming more complex, and the external environment is even more disruptive. In another way, think about some of the pain points we might have if we lack these key skills. Emotions can derail us if we're not aware of them in ourselves and others. If we are upset or our teams are upset, then we will clearly not perform at our best. Emotions can hijack our rational self and can also hijack the rational actions of others. We can all end up in a downward spiral of negative reactions to each other. Just a couple of additional points about emotional intelligence. EI is not just warm and fuzzy. It's also about having adaptability, about having an achievement orientation for yourself and your teams. It's about the ability to have difficult conversations, and it's about creating effective teamwork, going forward with your teams and yourself. Another thing is, as leaders, we tend to set the tone for an organization. There's a quote that says, "A leader can't have a bad day." How you feel about things gets directly translated in the general tone of how your team feels during a given day. Another thing as far as building our skills in emotional intelligence, there's a book titled Emotional Intelligence 2.0. 3 key things in there they call the 3 Ps. We want to look for progress, not perfection. We want to be able to practice these skills over time. And we have to have patience. Behaviors are hard to change and take some time. So how can we start building these skills? I'll just give you some examples that you can consider. In self-awareness, you might ask someone to give you feedback on your most recent meeting. What went well, what didn't went well, what you may have been missing as you led the meeting. You might stop and reflect on what's happened and how we might proceed differently in a conversation or some sort of activity. What went well and what didn't. In the domain of self-management, you might take 5 minutes each morning to pick 3 things that are very important for you to do today, recognizing there are all kinds of things you could be doing. But again, self-management is picking 3 focus points for the day. A second idea is, are you using your email inbox as your to-do list? Is that effective? Is there a different way for you to manage how you use your attention during a day? And finally, just the idea of begin to notice your triggers. What are the things that upset you? Is there some common theme? Is there something that often happens when you become upset? And can you think differently about those things that have in the past upset you? In the domain of social awareness, you might try in your next meeting or conversation to be very intentional about listening and not simply preparing to respond to a person. You might list out the top 10 relationships that are important to you in work and in home. And how do you feel about those relationships? Are they good? Could they be better? Just how do you feel? And finally, just making note of and pay attention to our own and others' emotions and maybe how they might be interacting just in the normal course of your day. In the domain of relationship management, how have you set the tone in recent meetings or team interactions? Did you come in with positive energy, in each of those cases? How might you mentor or coach one of your team members to develop new skills, whether it be emotional intelligence skills or even technical skills? Map out for your next meeting, what are the key conversations that need to happen in that meeting so to really move forward the agenda? So these are just some ideas that you can explore, pick 1 or 2 out, and just try them out for a few days and see what happens. So in summary, emotional intelligence is a critical skill for ourselves and our team's success. Emotional intelligence is learnable. Again, referring back to the book Emotional Intelligence 2.0, we're seeking to find progress, not perfection. We need to practice and we need to have patience. Again, we change behaviors over time. In the next 3 episodes, we'll be reviewing the 12 competencies individually. We'll be looking at their definition, why it matters, and what might be some first steps to take in terms of building on that particular skill or competency. And today's questions that I propose to you, and as well as resources that are available to you, will all be included in the show notes for this episode. So again, I always like to end with, what can we do today or tomorrow? So think about today. What are 2 key relationships, and how have your last 5 conversations gone with those people? Were they productive? Did you feel those conversations built your relationship, or did they diminish the relationship? What was your feeling at the end of your last 5 conversations with 2 different people? Another idea is to just make a note at the middle of the day and at the end of the day. And how are you feeling? Not a big, long discussion about it, but just a sentence or 2. Are you positive? Are you energized? Have you seen progress? Or are you depleted or drained or just feeling sad or overwhelmed? Just make a note of how you personally feel at a couple of spots during the day. Again, I want to thank you for joining me on this podcast and hope you'll join us for the next sessions as we explore emotional intelligence competencies a little further. Thanks and have a great day.